Welcome to Talmadge Christian Fellowship, Wednesday night Bible study. Please turn in your Bibles to the book of Exodus, Exodus chapter 20, as we continue and we wrap up the next couple weeks our study on the Ten Commandments. We've examined what God said to Israel to show them how to live as a free people after he freed them from Egyptian bondage. And many of these, if not all of the commandments, apply today as far as it will help any people, any society, any government to have a better life, to live a better life, and to live by principles that coexist with what God has intended. We are on the 9th commandment tonight. We have just gotten through some very direct, quick, and short commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Those are moral absolutes that leave little, if any, room for doubt. Tonight, the 9th commandment is in verse 16 of Exodus chapter 20. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Now we know elsewhere in the Bible, in the Old and New Testament, we know that God tells us not to lie. Well, this particular commandment, the way it was given, and in the Hebrew words that are used, it's primarily a sense of this command has to do with the legal process. Now, it is common for us to apply it in other areas, and it is to be taken seriously as truth for us and for others. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Most of us have probably seen, experienced, or observed the damage that can be done when someone bears false witness against us. For instance, in a courtroom setting, in a legal setting, when this commandment is broken and someone, and this is just life, as a real life thing that happens, witnesses are brought forward, sometimes paid or bribed, and sometimes for whatever motivation, they lie about what they saw, what they witnessed, what they were part of. This does such irreparable damage to the legal system because an eyewitness is supposed to testify exactly what he or she saw and bring truth to a situation where maybe no one else was around except perhaps the victim and the perpetrator. And that becomes a matter of he said, she said. But when you bring a witness or more into it, that adds another dimension. So if that foundation of that witness can't be trusted, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. You know, there are other ways to bear false witness more than this direct way that I'm talking about tonight, where you just say something that's not true. You make up a scenario, you make up a story, you lie, and you bear false witness against your neighbor. God knew for the children of Israel this would be disastrous because he'd incorporated the bringing in of witnesses to verify the happenings before they took it to Moses or to a judge. But there are other ways that we can bear false witness. How about the word slander? Slander is a lie invented and spread with intent to do harm. In our current legal system here in the United States, we have laws where a person can be sued for slander. It's an invented lie, and then it's spread, and the intention of it is to do harm. It's one of the worst forms of injury a person can do to another. Compared to one who does this, a murderer is kind, a gangster is a gentleman, as one commentator wrote. Because in those other cases, a life can be ended in a moment with the stroke of a pen, a single lie, with little pain. But a man or woman guilty of slander ruins a reputation which sometimes can never be regained, and it can cause lifelong suffering. Slander. The Bible has much to say that in the New Testament as well, as it relates to the 9th commandment, thou shalt not bear false witness. Talebearing is repeating a report about a person without doing careful investigation. I'll go a step further. I'll say that it's just simply reporting a tale about a person whether you've investigated or not. Many of us have known what it's like to suffer at the hands of a talebearer. No wonder the Bible tells us not to be talebearers, not to tell what we know, not to say what we know when it does no good, when our intent is to smear or besmirch another person by talebearing. To repeat a story that brings dishonor and discredit to another person is breaking this commandment. How many believers and people revel in this? Some seemed, and it's part of the human nature, to delight in working havoc by telling tales about other people, being a talebearer. To excuse the action by saying, well, I thought it was true, or I didn't mean to hurt anyone, it's no justification. Another way this commandment, in an indirect way, can be broken is inappropriate silence can break this command. When someone utters a falsehood about another, and a third person is present who knows that statement to be untrue, but for reasons of fear or being disliked, he or she remains quiet. I believe that third person is guilty of breaking this law just about the same as if they told a lie. Commentator Trapp says, neither bear it, nor hear it, raise, or receive wrong reports of another. And don't love it when someone hears it. The New Testament version of this commandment, you should not bear false witness against your neighbor, can pretty much be summed up in Colossians chapter 3, verse 9, where Paul wrote, do not lie to one another, seeing as how you have put off the old man with his deeds. As I said, this is definitely a sin of the carnal nature. It's a sin of the nature that is in us, the old nature, and not part of the new nature. Lying and false representations belong to the old man, not the new life that we have in Christ Jesus. Satan is always there to encourage a lie. John chapter 8, verse 44. He's a murderer from the beginning. He's the father of lies. He invented it. Imagine the concoction of lies that he had to tell to the third part of the angelic hosts to deceive them that the Bible talks about in the book of Revelation. The lie, the misrepresentation, the slander. He's always there to encourage a lie. Jesus himself, Mark chapter 14, was a victim of false witnesses. In some ways, we may say that this was part of the sins that sent Jesus to the cross. So, it looks and sounds simple and straightforward. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. But it's so important for the bedrock and the foundation of a society. Society breaks down and has broken down in our day and age because this commandment has been totally thrown out in most cases. When people substitute a lie for the truth, societal norms break down. We can't ever get to the bottom of anything if false witnesses are bearing false witness against one another. God knew that when he said that to the children of Israel. He knew that they could not live as a free people and bear false witness against one another, that they would be called upon to be true and authentic and accurate. You know, in many ways, I personally feel this comes down to either wanting good for the person or wanting evil. I think of many cases where a person was a talebearer or a person slandered another, and there was no good intent there. They will take it upon themselves sometimes to, well, I need to mete out justice by telling what I know about this person, or I need to mete out justice by remaining silent when I know what I'm being told is either not the truth or not the complete truth. Let me go one step further before we end this. It may very well be true. But if you or I are not called upon to witness it, what's our intention? What's our motive? Are we seeking to edify, build up? Would any of us want every secret conversation, every secret action portrayed on a big screen for everyone to see? I don't think so. Matter of fact, I'm sure we wouldn't. Every thought we had, the worst moments of our life, plastered for everyone to see? No. So, bearing false witness, slander, talebearing, or remaining silent are all ways that we can violate this 9th commandment, which is another in a series of how to interact with one another. God started off with how to interact with Him, and He has gradually moved to how to interact with our neighbor. God doesn't want us to bear false witness, beloved. He doesn't want us to be talebearers. He doesn't want us to slander. He wants us to live pure and wholesome as much as lies in us. Will we make mistakes? Certainly. But we can go a long way into maintaining our own integrity by speaking the truth, not bearing false witness, not jumping up to bear any witness when we're not called upon, if our intent is to smear or hurt or bring down another person. So let's be careful. Let's watch our tongue, our mouth, the words we say. They have lasting effect. They can do a lifetime, even a generation of damage by us repeating with our mouth what we think we know. And quite frankly, do any of us know the whole story? Even in a case where we are bearing true witness about someone, do we know the whole story? Are we the judge, jury, and executioner? No. That job is for God. All we can do, as was the intent when this commandment was given to the nation of Israel, when called upon to bear witness, bear a true witness, bear what we saw, bear what we were there for, what we experienced. That's what God was telling Israel. Not to lie about your neighbor. And the same thing holds true today in 2021. I'll try and end again. We are living in an age of what's called cancel culture. One tweet, one Instagram post, one Facebook post, one email, said in private, when brought to the attention, can end a career, has ended careers, can end someone's livelihood, can cause someone's death because the overwhelming grief caused by that has caused them to commit suicide. This is a serious commandment. It has serious consequences. And in our day and age, in 2021, it is just as important as it was when God gave the commandment to the children of Israel. So, how do we avoid this? Speak the truth. In love, the New Testament says. Speak the truth in love. May our intention always be to build someone up. May our intention always be to help the situation. May our intention always be to diffuse any violence or diffuse any anger or bitterness. That doesn't mean lie. It doesn't mean not give a witness, a true witness, when called upon. Let's watch our tongues. Let's watch our mouths. On this commandment, the 9th, not to bear false witness against our neighbor. Easily said, sometimes hard to do. Exodus 23:1, thou shalt not raise a false report, nor put thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. May God help us to live by that. Have a good rest of the night.